it's not like they shit on the right terms.
Well, and it's also just.
Huh?
Oh, we're starting.
Is that camera level?
Tell me, I'll see myself out. All right, Alex. You need anything else from me?
I'm good, thank you. I'll let you know.
Right.
Like, it looks kind of.
Big D-U-L-U-T-H, Duluth, Duluth. Oh, that's my hometown. Duluth, Duluth. Oh, that's my hometown.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Howl, episode 3. I'm your host, Graham Tuck, and today we have a very special guest, Huskies catcher Tyler Leroy from Arizona Western College. And Tyler, you're our first player guest. Happy to have you on.
Oh yeah, it's good to be here, especially just being able to catch up with some of the new guys and really start to get along with everyone around here.
Yeah, so tell me a little about yourself. Where are you from? Like, where'd you grow up? How'd you get here?
I grew up in New Jersey in a small town right outside, right over the bridge from Philadelphia. And I started out my college at the University of New Orleans first semester, and then ultimately transferred out to Arizona Western, where I did my 2 years, and I'll be transferring to Southern Illinois.
That's nice. That's nice. So you're here with the Huskies. You weren't here for the first series against Bismarck, but you played both games against Minot. You were on a tear. You went 4 for 7 those 2 games. And it had a couple runs scored, a couple RBIs. We came through in a big spot. And then again, what came in and what factored into that performance? And then you came in again against Bismarck and had that rip of a pinch hit opportunity and just went right to the second base.
Yeah, it's good. I had the experience out here being able to play under Coach Porter last year. So it was kind of easy for me to just find my way back in and just be comfortable from the start, which I wasn't last year. It's kind of just refreshing seeing the coaches that I played for and just being able to go out there and play with the guys.
Yeah, so you talk about Coach Pointer. How is his system and way of coaching different from other guys that you've been coached by?
Coach Pointer is really good at what he does. He gets the best out of everyone. He understands what a lot of guys are going through. He understands why everyone's here, and that's all he wants to do is just help everyone, which is the best thing. And he always has your back.
Yeah, that's huge from a coaching perspective. So you're here with the Huskies for another season, not able to be on this road trip, but you've got a big homestand coming up. Rochester, one of the best teams in the league right now, they're coming to town. How do you feel heading in towards the rest of the season with the group of guys that the Huskies have here?
I really like the group of guys that we have. I think once we start to just be around each other a little bit more and get comfortable out in the field, that we're really going to take off. I think the homestand, being able to play out in front of the Duluth faithful is always a good time, and we'll get us going on the right track.
Absolutely. All right, that's all I got for you, Tyler. Thank you so much.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Up next, we got another segment with the broadcasters, Jake Circus, John Willis, and Jordy Platt, recapping the homestand that we just had against Minot and Bismarck, and a preview for the rest of the season.
Well, my father, he was a great cook when it comes to barbecue, and I kind of inherited some of that from him. Well, I get the joy of cooking from my 35 years of experience, and plus just to see the smile on people's faces when they first take that initial bite, give me all the pleasure in the world.
What makes your pork so special?
Secret rub with a lot of love.
Well, thanks to Tyler Leroy for talking with Graham for our first segment of the Howl podcast. It's now time to join the 3 broadcasters, myself, John Willis. I'm joined with Jordy Platt and Jake Circus. We're here to break down the first homestand of the season. And boys, it was a nice homestand after a struggling start in Bismarck. 3-1, the Huskies went a couple wins against the Minot Hot Tots, split with the Bismarck Larks. It was a successful weekend.
Yeah, it certainly was, John. And I think there were some issues at times that we saw in Bismarck to begin the season with runners in scoring position, not converting in those situations. But it did get better. There was some big-time hits, especially in that last game of the Bismarck series that were so crucial. That game looked like it was going to get away from them, but that home run by Mike Hallquist to put them in front late in the game was just so crucial. And how about the power that we saw in this ballpark? I mean, just shocking to see at Wade Stadium. It just never happens.
The 3-1 start to this homestand, or the finish to the homestand, I should say, certainly wasn't easy, guys. They had to grind. They had to really earn every single run in those late innings. But something that they did not do in the Bismarck series was score runs, past the 5th in the second half of games. And they did that with some pretty clutch hitting against Minot in game number 2, and then in game number 2 against Bismarck to kind of avoid falling in that dreaded 4-0 hole to start the season. against one of your rivals. Jordy mentioned the power, and the one thing that we were told before this season was that we're not going to see many home runs in this building, in this stadium. And Jackson Beeman of Bismarck hit 2. He hit one the opposite way. And then the really clutch hit home run from Mike Hallquist was an opposite field shot that was a frozen rope and kind of scoured over the double green fence out there in right center field.
They were 4, I think, very different games because you saw in that first game against Minot, the Huskies had a big lead, 8-1, but then it kind of got a little interesting in the 8th. Ended up being 8-6. They needed Eli Sundquist to come out and do what he does and get a big save. Then in the second game against Minot, back and forth walk-off in the bottom of the 10th. Then you get down big to Bismarck to open up that game, 10-3, and you get the tying run to the plate in the bottom of the 9th, end up losing 10-6, but we're able to fight back. And then on that last game of the homestand, back and forth once again, Huskies got down, Michael Hallquist with the big home run. They found ways to win in different ways this season, and it was kind of cool to see that they were able to do that in different ways this weekend.
Yeah, and I think that's only going to continue with more reinforcements arriving. We saw a couple of new arrivals in these past few days. 2 ASU guys in Brandon Compton and Austin Humphreys. We saw Compton in the lineup and already producing. He's got a lot of power, so that should be exciting to see him develop over this summer. And Humphreys, a powerful left-hander. John and I were talking about the broadcast the other day. We have so little left-handed pitching, and it's really tough to try and adjust to as a hitter when you're not seeing left-handed pitching very often. To have Humphreys in there to get a lefty out in a crucial situation could be massive going forward, and he showed off some outstanding stuff. So I think they'll be able to win with the back half of their bullpen going forward in a way that they haven't so far yet this season.
That's a crucial piece to know before even mid-June, that you have your 8th and 9th, and what we expect your 8th and 9th inning guys to be Austin Humphreys with that power from the left side, and then, of course, Eli Sundquist shutting it down pretty much every single time in the 9th inning. But you teased at it, John, the winning in multiple ways, and that's really important at this point in the season before we get to the kind of the first playoff, the first postseason stretch. It's baseball. This is not going to be the same game every single day. It's never going to be easy every single day. But guys who just met each other less than 2 weeks ago, trying to figure out, who each other are and the ways that they can win together. And it was certainly refreshing to see them kind of find different ways to win. And that's some of the things that they're going to need if they want to make the postseason.
Let's talk about some of the standout players that we saw from the week. We mentioned Michael Hallquist in that Bismarck series, back-to-back days with home runs. The second one ended up being the go-ahead home run, which ended up proving to be a huge win for the Huskies before hitting the road to Thunder Bay. Also, you look back to earlier in the homestand, Devin Dodson with the longest start of the year for a Huskies pitcher, goes 6 innings of really quality ball. And obviously with a pitching staff that is struggling a little bit, that was really big to see. Other than those two guys, though, who are some guys that stood out to you guys throughout the weekend?
I mean, Max Coop just continues to rake for the Huskies. It's pretty remarkable to think he came in as a temporary player for them out of Skyline College. He's proving he needs to be in the lineup every single day. He'll be here the rest of the summer. There's no question about it. One thing to also note about Coop, not only has he been great at the plate, but defensively, he's just been remarkable in center field. There's so much ground to cover out there in Wade Stadium, and he's made a couple of great catches. One coming in, diving catch in that first game against Bismarck, and then later in that game, he went up and leaped against the wall and make a great grab. So he's really just doing everything right, and it just seems like he's going to be working really, really hard all summer to improve. He knows this summer is super important for him, and he's taking advantage of it.
He showed off all of the 5 tools already, which is quite astounding. Talk about another temporary player, Caleb Corbin, who is a guy that I circled on my scorebook heading into this season with his knowledge of the strike zone. We knew he was going to get on base a lot. He showed the in-the-zone skills, some of the bat speed. I think he's played a pretty good second base as well. Another temporary player that is certainly going to give Marcus Pointer a tough decision when that eventually comes.
So let's talk about some of the negatives, because there were some negatives throughout the season, and that means more things to build on as the season continues to go on. Through 7 games this year, 15 total errors committed by the Huskies. That's about 2 per game. That's obviously been a big thing. And then still, even with the 3-1 weekend, runners left on base, there were multiple games with over 10, 11. There was even one 14-hit game where they were just leaving runners on base. that is something that needs to continue to be looked at, and they need to continue to find more big hits with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it defensively, John, the other day on the broadcast, that guys are playing in positions they don't necessarily play in all the time, and that can really contribute. We've seen Carson Applegate play a lot of third base, and he's primarily a shortstop, and moving around all the time, that's going to mess up your timing. Your throws aren't necessarily going to be as accurate. So when everyone can arrive and guys can start playing, their natural positions more often, I think that will kind of improve by itself in some ways. And timely hitting, we talked about it in game 1 of that Bismarck series. Just major, major troubles there. 5 double plays they hit into during that game. The double plays were unlucky at times. I will say there were some hard hit balls, but I think it's going to turn eventually, especially when the ball is hit hard. You just kind of have to just hope that the defensive alignments are a little bit different.
Yeah, familiarity is your best friend, and that's not something that the Huskies have really had to start the season. It's never something you're ever going to have in the first 2 weeks of summer ball. It's just kind of how it goes. But I think that at times they looked like a team that just met a week and a half ago, and that's okay. I do think that, the flips to first base, the errant throws, that's just a little bit of rust. I mean, your first baseman hasn't seen the field in a while. Your shortstop hasn't seen the field in a while, especially when he's playing third, moving back to short, his natural position. It's a lot of rust. It's a lot of unfamiliarity, things that I think will get cleaned up eventually. And, again, as guys start coming in, we're going to have the familiarity effect, and it's going to be the same lineup day in, day out for the most part, and more familiarity.
And you mentioned the double plays, Jordy, and especially in that first game against Bismarck, they're only a loss of the 4-game homestand. 5 double plays, 4 of them with runners in scoring position that ended off an inning. And so you feel as if the ball goes their way a little bit more in those situations, that could be a very different game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we talked to Tyler Leroy about it. He was up at the plate with the bases loaded in a 4-run game. And, one of those double plays doesn't go the way of the Larks, and it's probably a 1 or 2 run deficit. The pitching mindset is completely different. You're in a ton of pressure. If that's a 2-run game, it probably goes your way. And I think if they get those 1 or 2 breaks, it'll just completely swing things. And I think that's why you're confident if you're Duluth. You've got a lot of guys on base. You can translate that eventually to more runs and more production with guys on.
Oh, I think there's tons of things to be optimistic and particularly excited about, and they're towards the top of the league in on-base percentage. That is exactly what Marcus Pointer wants. It sets up a lot of stolen base opportunities. Carson Applegate has stolen 4 bases already. He's only hitting 240, but his OBP was well north of 400. And, of course, Coop and Corbin and Duarte is kind of heating up. So there's a lot of things to really get excited about.
Let's talk about the pitching here to kind of wrap up this week, and that's obviously something that we've taken a big look at so far this year. They gave up some runs, and we talked about the long ball with Bismarck, but it feels like as these guys get their second, third starts of the season, and even yesterday against Thunder Bay, we saw one of the best bullpen performances, I think, of the season. And so there's definitely a lot to build off of, and as guys continue to get more innings and more guys continue to come in, it feels like that's going to get better.
Yeah, and I think Marcus Pointer is still looking and will be looking for the next couple weeks or so to find where guys feel most comfortable. That is so important as a reliever. Which inning do you feel like works best? Which guys are more of a late inning guy? Which guys come in long relief? Which guys can kind of get you through a jam in the 6th or 7th inning? I think that's going to be the key going forward, and we're starting to see that a little bit more. There's no doubt the 9th inning is taken care of with Eli Sundquist, and that is so crucial. Wow, he is just remarkable. The stuff there, amazing. So I think that's got to be huge for Marcus Pointer to know that 9th inning is taken care of.
Absolutely, and that's what we talked about on the home opener, Jordy, on the broadcast, is Marcus Pointer kind of finding this bullpen hierarchy is what's really challenging in summer ball, because a lot of these guys, again, have not played. You really don't know what inning is best for them, what particular spots. Yes, having the 9th inning closer is awesome and something that a lot of teams can't say, especially at this point of the year. We're super lucky that Sundquist is here for the long haul, that he came here early. But the 7th and the 8th inning, the 6th inning, if a starter gets into some trouble, the 5th inning are all just as important to kind of keep you afloat in the run prevention department. And Marcus Pointer is going to have to figure that out, just like every coach in this league. And I think the pieces are kind of starting to put themselves together.
So looking ahead a little bit now, we've talked about some reinforcements coming in. Murph Gray, Mountain West Freshman of the Year. He is here. We are likely going to see him Saturday, and we're extremely excited for that first game we get to see him. And also Calvin Halverson made his first start. He's from Utah Valley State. He had an incredible year this year. When he was with JUCO, he hit the most home runs in the NJCAA, and so there's some really talented guys coming to the lineup.
Yeah, there sure are. We've been so excited about Murph Gray for weeks, and it's awesome just to see him here today, getting some swings in. He's had some incredible comparisons made to him by that Fresno State coaching staff, some comparing him to Aaron Judge. That's a lot to live up to, but he is very, very talented and still super young, so we're excited to see him develop this summer.
Murph, Halverson, we're expecting some more catching reinforcements to come in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, Murph is someone that we are really, really excited for. But again, any chance you can add 2 full-time Division I players from the spring? We talked about Randy Velasquez, who's from Vanderbilt. Redshirt, didn't play much, but again, that's the pedigree that's coming as well. But sticking in 2 full-time Division I players from this spring into a lineup that has already produced in terms of getting on base in the first 8-9 games is certainly a reason to be excited about this upcoming homestand and the chance to kind of still win a series in Thunder Bay.
So let's talk about it to wrap this up. Big homestand coming up after the 4-game trip to Thunder Bay. You get La Crosse for 2, Rochester for 2. Those are 2 teams in the Great Plains East. Obviously, those are big games, especially with Rochester's hot start to the year. How do we see this one going? What do you think are going to be the biggest factors for the Huskies this weekend?
I think better starting pitching. The key with Devin Dotson's start was the distance that he went. He only allowed 1 run. He was very composed, very good with his pitch count. He was able to go farther in. That's going to be the key. You want to try and get guys to go consistently 5 innings to make that bullpen life easier. So I think we got to look for that, especially against a team like Rochester who started super well. They're probably going to take advantage of these walks more than we've seen with other teams. That's been an issue, those lack of command. So I think they've got to take advantage of that.
Yeah, we don't exactly know what the pitching is going to look like in terms of the starters, but it's going to be a group effort in terms of, guys are going to be put in spots, especially with no off days, no off day until June 14th, which is going to be after this homestand. So guys are going to get put in different spots that probably they haven't been this year. We might see Colin Linder move to the bullpen. The same thing with DJ Burke if they're going to need some outs. Both those guys, DJ is going to throw in Thunder Bay, and then Colin threw in the first game. So guys are going to be put in different spots, and again, it's going to be this group effort of, Chaz Melvin has done 5 2/3 of scoreless baseball. He was immaculate yesterday, kind of holding them down and keeping the Huskies in the game after a really slow start. It's going to be a lot of that. Yes, the hot starts from the starters are really important, but keeping the bullpen fresh and lowering the pitch count is also going to be really important.
So again, the Huskies finish up a 4-game series on the road at Thunder Bay, and then they'll be back home Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Saturday and Sunday against La Crosse. First pitch is at 5:05 on Saturday, 3:05 on Sunday, and then both games against Rochester, 6:35 on Monday and Tuesday. Try to make it out to the ballpark, but if you can't, you can watch along with us on the Northwoods League Baseball Network. For Jake Circus, Jordy Feedplatt, I've been John Willis, and you've been watching the Howl Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Big D-U-L-U-T-H, Duluth, Duluth, that's my hometown. Duluth, Duluth, that's my hometown.